I'd be lying to you if I told you guys that I'm happy about the last 2 weeks. I think there's definitely been a progression in our game. And when you enter a competition, what you want to see is that the back end of the competition you get better. So, yeah, I think we're spot on with our conditioning, spot on with our plans the last 2 weeks. I mean, to beat Province like we did last week, and then beat, obviously the Sharks convincing like we did today. It's a tick. It's a tick for everybody. It's a tick for the coaches. It's a tick for the conditioning staff. Obviously for the players' preparation. So yeah, Ken, I'm obviously very ecstatic about the fact that we managed to finish off on such a high note.
Jake, congratulations there. From observation, was this the most relaxed final that you've ever sat through?
Not really, Leighton. I mean, to be fair, we haven't probably ended well in the last couple of games. And even though you think you've done enough to win, what you don't want to do is throw away all the hard work you've put in. And even up to a certain time, I wasn't saying I'm nervous, but I just wanted us to finish on the high that we had worked hard to get in the last sort of 20 minutes of that game. So, yeah, I mean, I'm never one of those guys who sits there and says, look, it's nice, you can just now relax. I mean, obviously we have KPIs that we're all looking at defensively, attacking wise, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying it was a relaxed final. I mean, it's never a relaxed final when you're sitting in the coach's box.
Jake, I know it's a bit sorry, Ken. Jake, I know it's a bit of a flaky expression to talk about, a perfect game or a perfect finals game, but you must be immensely chuffed with the complexion of it. I mean, you guys were in control from the start, but I mean, in the first half, you were in control by absorbing pressure and, starting to disrupt the line out, countering well, and then gaining ascendancy in the second half to dominate. I suppose that's almost like a perfect progression, for a game in itself.
Yeah, it was, Heinz. I mean, that very first set of defense when we let them, they got the ball and then they attacked us. I think we went, I don't know what the time was, but it was many, many phases. We got a turnover, got a penalty, and then we could kick it down the field. And then from there, we turned that into, a try from first phase, which is, you don't get better than that. I mean, you defend your line, everyone's in place, your system's in place. And then you get a first chance to go and score in a final, and you take it and you go and score, as Harold Forster did there. So, yeah, Heinz, it's that is what it's all about. If you're playing at a big game, you got to make sure that the big moments aren't always on attack. The big moments can be both.
Jake, the Bulls scored a lot of points tonight, but just following on that, I mean, would you say that it was actually that defence in the first half when the Sharks really dominated territory and possession that won the game for you?
Yeah, Ken, I mean, again, we played at altitude, so them keeping the ball, I could see they were probably dead on their feet after about the first 15 minutes, because altitude catches you, and they, a lot have been written about this week about they're not going to go in their shell and they're going to play test rugby, they're going to have a go. So the fact that we could counter that and we could defend and keep our shape and, not get them to go around us as they have to other teams and to us in other occasions is obviously, the altitude then gets to them. And then when they're dead on their feet, you have an ability to pounce on them, So, 2 first phase plays in the first half, 1 try by Harold, 1 try by Lionel. As I said, it's sort of like, punch, counter punch when you can defend like we did and then put them under pump fatigue-wise, and then obviously take that chance and finish them off with 12 points.
Jake, would you say that comparing to the last season's Currie Cup final and Rainbow Cup final as well, that this team has taken a step forward in their progression in terms of managing a game, handling pressure, going into the URC?
Yeah, Ashfaq. I mean, I just chatted briefly, quickly now to Marcel, and he was just saying to me, he felt, at times we were so composed and we were so in sync, everyone, backs, forwards. You just got the feeling that everyone was almost calling the attack and the defensive structures we needed all the time, which you take confidence out of that. This first time Marcel's been the captain of a Currie Cup final team. We were lucky enough we had Dwayne, who's obviously a seasoned Springbok. But it's nice to know that that team, we don't want to take anything away from anybody, but we got relatively young guys. Ulrich young, two locks very young, front row young. Jan Hendrik still eligible to play under 20. So to get that sort of composure and I suppose that sort of feedback from the captain that everyone was on par and that they felt like they were in control is obviously very pleasing.
Jack, how much of the display today, and by the way, congrats with back-to-back wins, is close to your idea of the perfect storm or the perfect team or the perfect match or the perfect execution? You've spoken about the ticking of the boxes right in the beginning.
Yes.
So that first part of my question, and then secondly, this must be right up there with bringing back the proudness, the oomph that you spoke about when you initially started at the Bulls, and bring the proudness back of the Bulls culture, the Bulls brand, and stuff like that.
Yeah, Simon. So firstly, that's probably very close to a perfect performance based on the fact that when you get chances, you take them. When you get asked questions defensively, you make the right reads. You don't give soft penalties away. We probably gave 2 offsides penalties away tonight, which again, if you're really critical, we've got to be sharper on that. But yeah, one as a coach, us coaches are never happy, but that is how you play rugby. That is how you can create massive amounts of confidence, massive amounts of cohesion, and it can only get better. That's the nice thing about it. Once they see it works, then they buy into it, and all credit to the coaching staff, Simon. I think again, Russell's taken this forward pack, relatively young forward pack. Joey was, working hard on the defence. We probably leaked a few too many tries in the last couple of games. So when you get that, everyone then obviously gets very, very happy about the fact that the team's growing. And yes, I'm very proud of the fact that it's a back-to-back result. It hasn't happened for 17 years. This union, I've said it many times to all of you, is an incredibly proud rugby union. We want to be the best club. We want to make sure that we create a bit of a legacy, and we're very thankful for what's happened before. Let's not forget, players before us have had exactly the same successes, and that's why we probably can do what we do, because we have a bit of a legacy that's been given to us. And I don't want to get too, too sentimental about it, but since I've been here, that is exactly what we've been pushing, is that, the jersey is hell of important. And when they play like they did tonight, then I'm sure supporters, everybody that's involved with the Bulls will be very, very proud.
Jake, I know you had like a whole host of heroes, throughout this campaign and in this game, but I was just wondering about a guy like Arnu. I don't think anybody's actually doubted his pedigree when he came back, but it was on the back of a very good season with Munster, and he scored tries. You saw him on the field, but he's almost like emerged sort of like as the unsung hero now of your Lustri. That absolute scrapper almost, that number 7. Whose input you only almost appreciate when you actually look at the video again. Is that the type of role that you sort of like envisage for him, or is it just a progression of his game?
Well, Heinz, let me say the one thing that, Eldrick Lowe tonight, man of the match. I think Marcel, outstanding in a couple of games. Then we've had Dwayne, who's won man of the matches when he played in the back row. So I'm answering it by saying that's what you want. You want competition for places. You want players to know that if they don't have their best games, there's an opportunity for someone to take your place. And he's shown that he wants to keep that jersey, and he's putting it up. He's putting it there. He's giving everything he can, which is all a coach really wants. And I don't think he's an unsung hero. I think everyone does their job. Some players, I suppose, don't get seen because they're not as flashy as other players. But you would have seen with our group, Ruan Nokia and the Gerard Steenekamps that don't really always get the kudos that they deserve. That's part of, I suppose, what coaches and the team want. Is we want everyone to be, doing their job. And I think Arnu's doing that now. He's enjoying his rugby again, and I think he's just had a bubba. So he's probably in a nice space as well. That he's. And that's probably rubs off on the fact that he's now playing such good rugby.
Jake, and some people thought the world ended when Johan Goosen was ruled out of the game, but Chris Smith came through after what happened in the Rainbow Cup final.
Well, Ashfaq, again, I mean, I spoke a little bit about Russell and the forwards and Joey in defence. You've got to give credit to Chris Rousseau as well. I mean, you lose a fly half, but, I was always comfortable. He spent lots and lots of time with Chris, and in other words, Chris and Chris. And I'm not talking about this week, I'm talking about in the whole time since we've been together, and he's got massive amounts of confidence with him, and you saw today, Chris, I think all the little games and all the little wins that Chris Smith have had along the way, kicking winning kicks and playing in big games, etc., I think just all add up. And I had no doubt that, his passing today, hitting those centres through the holes and everything is, as good as any 10 that's playing. So happy for him, really happy for him. And you're right. I mean, but we downplayed that Ashfaq. When you get to a point where you lose a guy and you go, oh, that's the campaign gone, then you don't really give much faith to the players that are in the team as well. And I said, look, one day it can happen that we lose Quisson because he goes to the Springboks, and then, is the season over? What are we going to do? Are we going to, pack up and leave? And I'm glad that the players have actually understood. You've got to, and I go back to what Heinz said to me just now about Arnu. Just do your job, and as well as Arnu does it in the quiet. I mean, Chris Smith today with didn't win man of the match, but he played really well.
Jake, just on this win now. And the next couple of weeks, it's been a year and a half of playing against South African opposition. How confident are you that the guys can replicate performances like this when going into Europe, and then also adapting to the asks of rugby in Ireland, rugby in Wales, and Scotland?
Yeah, look, Leighton, I think we were lucky, and I say lucky in that we got an opportunity to play overseas against Benetton, and we got a massive learning curve there and a massive wake-up call, and we weren't good enough. I mean, we were first to admit that. A lot of things were a lot different to what we were used to as well, and again, it's not an excuse, crowds and different, training facilities, and one gets into a bit of a comfort zone when you're playing with the same team regularly, and you're playing, in the same stadium, and there's no crowds, and you can train in almost the same facilities all the time. Now it's different. We're going off to Leinster, then we're going to go from there to Connacht, completely different team to what we used to, and then we're going to go to, obviously to Cardiff and play in Cardiff, and then Edinburgh. So, yeah, I'm obviously going to not worry about that tonight, Leighton, but I will address that as the week gets into it and sit with a couple of the guys that are obviously need to bounce a couple of things off. But, it is what it is. I think we'll just enjoy the fact that this campaign is over. And, now we can just sort of put our feet up for 1 or 2 days and then, back to business at the back end of this week.
Jake, your pack is obviously going to get a lot of praise and headlines, deservedly so. But a guy like David Creel had some really big moments in the final today. How much has he progressed? I mean, he's a really young guy, but he's solid at the back there.
Ken, that's what I'm so glad you guys asked those questions, because, and again, I know that I sort of wax lyrical to you, but they're young. I mean, David Creel just graduated out of under 21s, and you've got a guy, the 2 locks were under 21s, and Ulrich Lowe could have played under 21s last year. So, I mean, I'm also a realist. I know we're off from where we need to be when we play. We're going to play Leinster on next Saturday. They've probably got 25 guys in their squad that are international players. So it goes from where we are now to completely different. You're not talking about a Currie Cup where the average age of the guy is sort of 24 years old. You're going to go and play internationals who've got more test caps than they've got Currie Cup games in this country, So, but saying that, when you see a guy like David improving and you see guys like, Ruan improving and Janku Swanepoel improving, then it gives you hope, because you know that they can only develop, Ken, and that, you're right, he was very good tonight, very solid. Yeah, we didn't have a reserve 10, so we knew that, the last thing we needed was one of those 2 guys to go off as well. And the way they managed and the way they played was obviously also very important for us. And both of them were outstanding.
Gentlemen, if there's nothing further, thank you very much.
Just one more, Jake. When do you guys go to Ireland?
Ashfaq, we leave on Saturday evening. So as it stands now, I think the Sharks leave on Friday evening, and I think we leave on Saturday, which is 1 day later than the Sharks.
Okay. Jake, I'm sorry, just also, you've mentioned them briefly, but just the role that guys like Russell and Joey played in this campaign, the previous campaigns. We know at their former unions things didn't really end too good for them,
Yes.
but just a word on them and how they also progressed with you and with the team.
Yeah. No, Leighton, I mean, obviously, coaching it's one of those jobs you sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad. I'm just very happy with them. They joined us. They're relatively young coaches still, and again, in terms of experience, but they're growing. And part of my job as director of rugby is to give them opportunities to develop. And if you look at what Russell and Joey specifically, and Chris, and obviously Nolas, and all of them, but specifically those two guys. I mean, look how our pack has gone from scrum and line out and first phase from when we started to where they are now, and it's like it's not that saying it's chalk and cheese, but there's definitely a massive growth phase. And defensively, Joey the same. If you look at today's performance defensively, that's probably one of our best defensive performances in a long time. Everything was spot on. Our tackles, our getting out of the rucks, our getting back into the line, our understanding of where they want to attack. So Leighton, yeah, I mean, as I said, I can talk about all the staff, but everyone's growing, and those two guys, I'm sure they're going to take a massive amount of confidence out of what they've done since they've been here, not just this campaign, obviously all the other campaigns.
Just the last one from me. Where we sat and watched the game, I observed that there was a lot of leadership roles being played on the field, and not only coming from a guy like Marcel. Are you going to stick with Marcel in the meantime for the URC, or have you got other guys that will obviously interlink with captainship?
Yeah, so Simon, I mean, you would have picked that up. I mean, the fact you asked just now, someone asked me about Arnu as well, and I mean, Arnu is a captain. He's been a captain. He feels comfortable that he can help in certain roles for Marcel. Very different, very different captains. One is probably a little bit more quiet. The other one's probably a little bit more passionate. But again, there's nothing wrong with that. I've seen captains like Gary Tashman who captain in a certain way, and I've seen captains like Joos van der Westhuizen who captain in a completely different way. So, yeah, I think we'll work together. I think as this team grows, we spend a lot of time with our leadership group. Guy like Henry Gericke works really hard on giving players the ability to be leaders in their field. I mean, I thought tonight one of the things which you probably would have noticed, no one's asked me about it, but we've been caught with tap free kicks and penalties for a long time in the last couple of weeks. And when a guy like Zach tapped that ball literally on the halfway line with a penalty and started to run, we ended up scoring from that. Again, that just shows that we're growing as a leadership group as well. The fact that Zach has the confidence to tap it and run and put them under pressure, means that he's comfortable, that he's not ring fenced. He's a leader. He's in our leadership group. He understands the role of how to get guys around him to react. And again, in a little battle won with him tonight as well, that he can tap and run, feel comfortable. Captain's not going to get into his ear, and then he can actually show leadership by knowing when and how to do it.